Здравствуйте.
Good afternoon, everybody is here. Let's start welcoming the hostess of our forum, Valentina Matvienko. Thank you for getting us together in this room. I thank all of our outstanding guests. I hope our discussion will be interesting, vibrant, and not without challenging items. Thank you all. It means that the subject that we have chosen for our discussion is really shocking to many people worldwide. Myself, as a mother of several children, I'm quite concerned about what is happening in the world. I do care about what happens not only at home, but what my children can hear outside of our home. My children get gadgets from the children of their age, and for many people who propagate unpleasant and quite often shocking agenda have lots of opportunities to bring the ideas home to our children. And there are several outstanding women here. One of them is very good at boxing, the other one in gymnastics. So I asked them at the very beginning what they think about men becoming women to fight other natural women. So that's why I'd like to ask you, Madam Matvienko, whether you are concerned about these problems, because some people believe that they have woken up to wrong situation, and probably we just exaggerate the situation which exists in the world today. Thank you, Margarita, for becoming our moderator. I'm really grateful to you, and I'm quite sure that you, as usual, will be doing a very good job of it, and we'll have a very good discussion. And secondly, I wanted to say that from now on, we consider you part of our team of the Eurasian International Women's Forum, and I'm quite attracted by the idea that a majority of those who attend our forum share the general human values, the conventional values, which means that the trends that are shocking to us are doomed to failure. However, I believe that we should not only think about aggressively pushing a wrong agenda by Western countries, but we should also discuss a wide threat from attacks on the features of social sovereignty in the world. There's been quite a strong pressure on all the countries to make them forget about their identity and traditions, and it's not by any accident. There are technologies to brainwash people. To my mind, the gender agenda is only one head of a hydra, and they are all of them quite dangerous. We should think about it, and most important, we should approach them systemically. And the fact that our spiritual moral values have been included in our constitution is our system-based action that guarantees that we have an ideology of our people that will remain unchanged. And I believe that we set a good example for other states. And secondly, before we start our discussion, we should try to articulate why it is that today there's been such a strong blow of the liberal global machine against the identity of many countries in the world. I believe that the answer is quite evident. It is the traditions of every state that are passed over from one generation to another, those that help shape people around us. They are probably the only defense, the only civilized protection, I would say, against this very strong pressure. That's why the West understands that these are the obstacles that prevent the West from promoting and pushing their agenda, from manipulating people and making them forget their human values. And they are also trying to destroy families, because families are the fundamental link where personalities are formed, where traditions are maintained, and we may not underestimate this danger, because the West comes up with new technologies, with new ideas to undermine traditional family values. On one occasion during this forum, I said that we need to prohibit the child-free campaign, because it is a hostile project brought from elsewhere, because it means that healthy women are supposed to give up their motherhood values. And this is a subject that is being discussed now by the experts from the Minister of Justice of Russia. So we'll never have a situation in which women who can have babies are opposed to the idea of motherhood. We won't have anybody implementing this ideology in Russia. But how are we to find the borderline between those women who have possibly problems in their personal life and this monstrous ideology, which is extremely dangerous? First of all, I'd like to assure our women that they should not be concerned about it. Our government will be always pursuing a smart ideological policy. That's why it is the right to choice by constitution in this country. But here we deal with the use of state-of-the-art technologies in an attempt to destroy families through one-sex marriages. This is dangerous, and possibly my colleagues will come up with their ideas. I just want to give them food for speculation. Why are they doing it in the West? Clearly, they want to build up a system of control over the global world in their own interest, using AI, using big digit and the other options, and they're in a great hurry. I can explain why they were in such a hurry at the opening of the Olympic Games in Paris. An absolute majority of the world condemned that monstrous caricature of Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper, and a majority of the global population condemned that event. And I believe that sound mind will definitely ultimately win in most countries, and this is what is occurring today. But they want to rule not mankind, but mankards without any personality, who do not remember their past and their families. They want to destroy all the fundamental principles of our multi-millennium civilization. That's just for the beginning. Thank you very much, Valentina. Now, Natalia Kachanova, chairperson of the Council of the Republic of the National Assembly of Belarus. Belarus is our friendly country. It's our sister country. You also have traditional values. Are you trying to defend yourselves against the hostile ideas like that? First of all, I'd like to sincerely thank you for the opportunity to take part in this panel discussion, because definitely this subject will not leave anybody unexcited. We are not trying to defend ourselves. Why should we defend ourselves? We do remember our history very well. We cherish our traditions, and we live the way that we that we consider correct. Our state has many century historic roots, and as legislators, we are certainly working on various aspects. In 2022, we were discussing amendments to the Constitution of Belarus, and I was in charge of the group that was gathering all the comments and ideas of our citizens of Belarus. Even though we adhere to our traditions and live by our laws, that was a time when we needed, however, to formalize the marriage between man and woman. When we were discussing this matter, we understood that people worried about it. Why are they worried? Because we live we are bordering with a number of Western countries, and our concern is due to the fact that we want to live in a country which has retained its traditions that are many centuries long. So when we amended our constitution, understanding this concern, there were also suggestions that we need to introduce a ban on delivering children, a ban on aborting children, and however, we decided not to do it. But recently, when we were discussing it at an all-Belarusian meeting recently held, that in our concept of national security, we should record that it should be marriage between man and woman by birth. In this way, we want to live in the way which we abide by to honor God. Our country is multi-ethnic. There are 150 ethnic groups living 150 ethnic groups living in Belarus. Recently, we were discussing our traditional values. Believe me that we certainly should not try to invade the minds of those who have been making wrong decisions, but we will never support the ideas that come from the West. And this is quite encouraging to me as our neighbor and relative, I can say. And now, Mr. Binod Singh, director of BRICS Institute in India.
We survived, what, 3, 4, 5,000 years so far? And that alone suggests that the society in India should be more traditional, since it's so old, one of the oldest. It should be more traditional than, let's say, the United States. That's one of the youngest civilizations in the world. Is that true, or is that a mistake on my side to think so? Also, do you see this aggressive Westernization, this aggressive woke ideology that we see as aggressive, or even woke religion, because the way they push it is in a way close to pushing a new religion? Do you see it as a threat, or do you ignore it, or do you see it as something fun and maybe something that you should look at and incorporate into your society? Thank you.
Thank you, Margarita, for this very direct question to a guy who lived in India, China, and a little bit in Russia. So, first of all, I really want to say a few words away from your question. I've never seen such a grand forum, even on YouTube, okay? Yes. So, I have seen Indians Modi political rally, like elections. I have seen rallies, elections, and so many things. But what I see, this fourth Eurasian forum has totally changed my mind. I think this Bolshoi forum is bigger than any forum in the history of humankind. And I wish we take this opportunity to make some historical monument, something like in New York, they have Statue of Liberty. I think in St. Petersburg, we should have a statue of women, where the women will come from across the world, not only from Eurasia, to inspire how the women power. Especially, I can name if Madam Valentina, the way she started the forum, and she not only brought the Eurasia, she has brought the whole universe here.
Madam Valentina, как вы сказали, это пример для нас, для всех.
You said Madam Valentina, just an example that you said for all of us.
Listen, Indians are famous for giving ideas, but we really feel it, and India and Russia, and I can say even China, Eurasia, we feel a connection from soul to soul. Maybe we speak different Isaac, different language. You practice Orthodox Christian, we practice Orthodox Hindu. But to be honest, whenever I see any Ruski mama or papa, why they go to India? Because they love Indian family. They love, despite they're poor, despite the Doma house is very tight, but they can see how Indian women, Janshina, can take care of 6 kids, just alone. So to be honest, even now, I believe if there's a real hero, women hero, it's an Indian woman who can take care of the housework, make cooking a lot, and also at the same time, the Americans, the Europeans, they think, how can you do that? You should stop cooking. You take care of house, you take care of your husband, because Indian husbands are very lazy, by the way. So if you are thinking of marrying an Indian guy, be careful.
Are you married, Mr. Singh?
Yes, I should get married because I believe in traditional family. And,
you're not married, so
I'm married.
You're married. Does your wife think you're lazy?
You can ask her next time.
Okay, I will.
So to be very specific, for me, I'm sure I have colleagues from India who are here, and they're simply shocked the way you are holding this forum, right? I mean, some Indians are very proud, not some Indians, especially the Indians who are in power, our bureaucrats, our minister, foreign minister, they're very proud of Indian democracy. But Maria will agree with me that on the ground, Indian democracy is in a very bad shape. It is only there for the sake of looks good to Americans, looks good to the Europe. Oh, you are the Bolshoi, the largest democracy. But in reality, we are a very traditional society, and we are not democratic. Okay, I leave it up to you. You decide if you have Indian friends. So we feel more close to Chinese style. You know, in China, it's not democracy, it's a Chinese democracy. In Russia, you have your own form of government. So we believe in BRICS philosophy now, or some people say Eurasian philosophy, which means that we should not blindly go for something like human rights, feminism, because this feminism is creating problem in India now. They misunderstand feminism in terms of equality. You can see that Indian girls, they look very nice in the sari, right? But now Indian girls really want to dress like you, all of you. Really. So, okay, it's up to them to decide what they like, what they don't like. But in the name of feminism, they're just going on the superficial things, not exactly on getting rights to the work. So the women's participation in Rabatut, in working women in India, is still very low. If you go for a walk in the Indian street, at the time of office, you see just men are working, women are not working. I'm talking about many cities. I'm talking about New Delhi, Bombay. So I wish all of you could be critical of India. Don't always say good things about India. There is one aspect of India where India should learn from Eurasia, is the status of women. My Chinese friends, they always say that we have to liberate Indian women. The Indian women are not enjoying the same rights which women in Eurasia, women in China, women in Russia. So I'm not officially a spokesperson for the Indian women, but as a husband and as a brother, as a growing up in a very traditional family, I believe that Russian culture, Russian family, Russian tradition has a lot to teach Indian family and Indian system. Margarita.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting. Feminism is irrelevant to Russia and has been irrelevant for quite a long time, at least ever since the October Revolution, because women were immediately given the same rights as men. And what you're saying is interesting, and maybe after we've gone through this first question that we're discussing, we will get back to that. I would like, and maybe our audience would like to hear your stance on in what exactly spheres Indian women are denied the rights that we have in our society in Russia, where we're completely equal with men. And Valentina Ivanovna is a great example of that. You know that she holds and has been holding a great government post and state post for many years, and the fact that she's a woman in no way was looked upon in any kind of bad way here in our society. So we'll get back to that. Мария Владимировна Захарова, мы с Марией Владимировной подруги, поэтому я надеюсь, вы не будете возражать, если мы будем...
And now I will invite Maria Zakharova. We are friends, and we are often discussing the same questions which are in our mutual interest. Could you tell us what you think about all that, what you can say? I am really thankful to Valentina Matvienko, because she has now introduced into our vocabulary the word friends. We are not only colleagues, but we are friends. We even have similar flowers, and we are no rivals. The progress of this session today, it speaks a lot about Russian traditions. For instance, this is a women's forum, but we have a man in the center on the podium. And I'm very thankful to our Indian guest for his words about our forum, that it has been the grandest event that he has witnessed. We offer our foreign friends this kind of platform. We do not accept any a role of a messiah. We do not say that we are the only ones, that we are the dominant ones, that we are exceptional. We can say that we have experience, history, achievements, and we were collecting them not for ourselves alone, but we wanted to share our experience and the results of work of many generations to the whole world, to the world at large. Yesterday I was sitting at the sessions together with two wonderful girls. They both represent our joint state with Belarus, and these two girls were astronauts. We have here quite a number of ladies and women and girls from many countries, former members of the Soviet Union and now the Commonwealth of Independent States. We can say only that this is another opportunity for our cooperation. It is practically the same slogan that was current in the time of space exploration earlier, that we offered cooperation in joint research of outer space. One of the very first space flights in the Soviet Union was made by a Russian woman. The Soviet Union sent a woman in space, into outer space, to show everyone that women can be capable of anything, of any exploit. And we do not want to say that it is a plus for us, but we are ready to share this with everyone, to share our talents and our experience. There was a lot of reactions in the media on the words by Valentina Matvienko speaking about child-free. She said that this is an alien concept because it doesn't fit the primary function of the woman, childbirth and motherhood, and what will happen if you try to start a new movement like Old Free, when the people will try to eliminate senior citizens. When if we can take drugs at school, we do not want to live longer than 30. We think that it is awful. It is not good to prolong your life indefinitely. And another movement there may be, which may be called disabled free. We do not want to have any handicapped or disabled people around. They will be only a burden for us. Let's exterminate them. Or another movement like poor free. Let's get rid of the people who haven't reached a certain level of wealth. I wanted only to draw your attention to the fact, to the words about democracy. He said that every country has a democracy of its own. And it is a very interesting and an in-depth thought. There are two mainstaking concepts which are inside the idea of democracy. This is the power of the majority and in a process when people elect their representatives so that they could rule a state in the name. But if the people have no history, no goals, no principles, it will be no democracy in this case. Another value of the democracy is freedom. But there may be freedom to inflict harm on everyone, including yourself. You may be free of family, you may be free from your parents, you may be free. But the true freedom is the freedom from evil. It is the freedom to live a good and creative life. In this country, the voice of the people has found legal format. There has been a presidential decree adopted in August on the preservation of traditions in the government activity. Just imagine how many people are coming now to Belarus to keep yourself intact from the harmful trends. And lots of people come to Russia to save their children from all those distortions and harm that may be inflicted on them abroad. And there was another decree of the president on support of the citizens which share our traditional values. So this way I would like to finish my brief speech. We do not want to violate anybody's will. We want to save Russia from the dead end which the West is running to? Well, dear Ms. Kvartsova, you are a physician. Your profession is the most noble. You save people. On the other hand, there is such thing as progress. But progress may be either useful or harmful. And speaking about the challenges of the progress, we have now reached the life expectancy for men, which was earlier not longer than 28 years. Now the people live long enough to see their grandchildren. But there are now missionaries who want to make other countries to adopt another religion. They say they say that we are not humane because we do not let people cherish their distortions, they say that we are not progressive and we are not humane because we do not want to make the child freely decide whether he is a boy or a girl. Thank you very much for inviting me to this talk. And from the scientific standpoint, I must say only that normal, regular life can be led only when the mental system is normal and running perfectly well. There are only two ways in which we can find a positive psycho-emotional state. First is where we satisfy our wishes. It is like eating when you are hungry. The desires can never be fully satisfied. As time goes by, there is not enough of the means that bring pleasure and satisfaction. That is a kind of drug addiction or alcoholism, and it results in egocentrism and really drug addiction or something like that.
And it is indeed manipulation and social designing. And there is a second avenue with which we relate the value codes of this country. It is the joy of creation, of building, of harmony with the environment. It is a much more difficult alternative because in this case it is necessary to shape people from very early age to cultivate values such as kindness, creativity, and also based on laboriousness, ambition, and hard work, and only well-developed persons can devote themselves to achieving real objectives, and this country has opted for this particular avenue. This avenue, this vector, is recorded in the strategic concept of our spiritual and moral values, and that is why Russia is certainly quite attractive for all the healthy forces worldwide. For those countries, the people, not only from the countries that share our values, but also for whole groups of population in other countries, which groups actually are quite important, and the Russian policy is well known for its delicate attitude to such countries, both in two-side format and in international organizations such as Shanghai Organization or BRICS. In your presentation, you touched upon scientific progress, and certainly now is the time when knowledge is being accumulated. I work in medicine, in healthcare, where we are tackling tasks that used to be taboo in the past, and now we aim at ensuring longevity and so on. Could you give us good news? What is what you have invented to impress us all? Well, it's time for me to know it. I'm going to be 45 shortly, and I'm 75. Don't tell anybody about it, Valentina Ivanovna. Nobody will believe you anyway. I'm not shy of my age. I wish everybody to feel like me at this age. What matters is that spiritual and moral values that are fundamental are not only contradictory to scientific progress, but they also form a foundation for a system of values to avoid various bad temptations when people give absolute value to their knowledge, when they try to violate natural laws while nature is harmonious. And what we do in the field of science is also based on spiritual and moral values. And just like Maria has said, now is the time when our scientists are coming back after having worked for 10 or 15 years abroad in the United States or Australia or in other countries, and they have been quite a success there, but they come back here to this country for a number of reasons. First of all, they cannot stand the new formats, which are quite distorted there, and they fear for the future of their children. They want their children to get higher education in this country, and besides, they want their children to be able to go in for science, and they themselves won't have any restrictions to work as scientists here. And lastly, I wanted to say that this concept is multidimensional. It includes education, culture, patriotism. A very important part of this structure is the education of culture for take care of one's health. In fact, what we do ourselves to care for our health is 50 or 55% of our good health. And this means giving up bad habits. It also means that we need to know how to be stress resistant, how to develop other good qualities. I believe we have every reason for being optimistic, and our newly born children should be led by us in the right way. And I believe there are things that can be approved here, and it will guarantee a success not only for Russia, but also it will enlighten the world around us. Well, I hope to God it will be so. And now, since there was a mention of a vibrant discussion, just as an example, I wanted to mention what is, after all, extensive and intensive development of mankind. When it is extensive, we only meet our personal needs, but when it is intensive, I can recall a situation. We visited a country where there was a great drug addiction problem, and our vis-a-vis told us quite enthusiastically about the way in which they decided they should be able to prevent crime. So we were quite surprised. How have you managed to overcome this challenge of today? They said, we simply legalize drugs. And drug legalization leads to a reduction in crime. I was absolutely shocked. It looks quite simple. We could just take the same attitude to everything. If we call what is bad, if you call it good, and so on. If the West always relies on scientific progress as the dominant feature of its development, on the other hand, science now has a very special role. We have just had a session devoted to women's contribution to the development of artificial intelligence, and there was a question about Vikings. There were just photos there that were and images that showed black-skinned Vikings, which was done by artificial intelligence based on the principles of tolerance and political appropriateness. Well, Mr. Yakovenko, you spent many decades living in the United Kingdom, so you may have traced how it happens. I remember what it was like in the United States when in 1974 they had a series, and human heads are ruled by series of films, etc. And so that series became quite famous. It was called The Friends. Many of you may recall it. In the first part of the series, the wife of the main character walks out on him to live with a woman. At that time, it was a shock to us. We were quite to know that it's possible to show it in films. But today we are so far away from those times, and so those windows have been opening just little by little, but the Western society is moving along this road. How was it happening in the United Kingdom, and to what extent is this propaganda effective, and Western people are not affected by it? Thank you. Well, I believe that the British are just at the vanguard of the liberal agenda. It's an element of their life. I completely agree with Valentina's statement that the liberal agenda is just one of the heads of the multi-head hydra. Because today we can see just a proportion between the liberal agenda and the conventional, traditional agenda. And now the diplomats in Moscow that represent a majority of the countries believe, and it has become so evident over the past several years. So we have a majority and a minority. A majority is around 140 countries, including Russia and India, for instance, and a minority is Western countries, such as the United States, around 50 of them, and diplomats now are discussing quite strongly what are the differences between these countries. And there are 4 differences according to them. The world majorities countries build up their policy based on international law principles, and they jointly improve these laws, while the minority countries are mostly based on the Anglo-Saxon guidelines that can always be adjusted. The second component is attitude to private property. Over the past several years, the expropriation of Russian assets abroad, the prosecution of people who have nothing to do with politics in Afghanistan or Venezuela, and so they don't respect human beings in the West. And the third difference is the attitude to traditional values. My impression is that it is becoming increasingly more important, and it is now being actively discussed not only on the sidelines, but also in the framework of BRICS and Shanghai Organization. There is one more element that did not exist even several years ago, and it is dividing sports into traditional and liberal sports. What we saw in Paris, was it traditional? What do you mean by traditional? Do you mean that curling is liberal? No. When men compete against men, it's conventional, traditional sport. It's not by the modality of sport, but it's by the participant's gender. So what we saw in Paris, it was just a manifestation of the liberal agenda that has been developing in the West. And Joe, coming back to your question, the British are at the vanguard of the activities of the liberal community in the world, and actively the British have been exercising a lot of influence on the agenda of the Davos forum. I mentioned all this to show that we in Russia and the countries that are our allies, we stand for traditional values and national diversity. If we look at the proportion between the world's majority and the world's minority, our priority is to make people better understand the priorities that exist for mankind, to understand that the agenda dealing with the controllability of society, controllability of human beings will be growing and will be imposed by mass media, above all via culture. And I believe that the key problem for the British society is demography, because the liberal agenda basically results in killing society, both in terms of numbers and in terms of morale. And most importantly, the countries that will follow the liberal agenda will face the same problems. Thank you. Well, Mrs. Valentina, Madam Valentina, we only have half an hour left. We have been discussing things for half an hour. So, quite recently, as Masha has just recalled us, our president, Vladimir Putin, said that the Russian government will be taking steps towards encouraging people who share our traditional values to come to this country. It's no secret that we have been lobbying this approach. We have been sending letters to the government about it. We could kill two birds with one stone like this. First of all, the first bird is the ideology, the idea that people across the world like most, and the values should be based on it. So what were the advantages of the Soviet Union despite a lot of negative aspects? It was the idea of equality, which was quite beautiful, and it had an echo in the souls of the people. And that's why they tried to fight us, because they were afraid we could convince people that our ideas are better. And in the new Russia, we have been short of ideas to show the rest of the world that we are a safe haven that we can suggest to them.
Колоссальные меры, беспрецедентные во многом не знающие себе равных ни в каких странах мира. В тех же Соединенных Штатах Америки до сих пор нет вообще декретного отпуска. О каких материнских капиталах мы говорим? Несмотря на все эти меры, демография все равно наша оставляет желать лучшего. А может быть, это помогло бы нам тоже ее улучшить. Мне очень интересно ваше отношение к этому вопросу. Тоже ее долго искала.
Но прежде всего у России есть шанс, и я бы сказала, это не только шанс, это такая миссия стать вот гаванью, как вы сказали, для всех тех людей, кто разделяет традиционные ценности. И ведь, собственно говоря, традиционные ценности – это цивилизационные ценности, которые веками создавались. И возьмите любую религию. В каждой религии вот эти традиционные ценности в той или иной, теми или иными словами, но они общие для всех. Это не придуманы какие-то ценности России. С одной стороны, они общецивилизационные. А с другой стороны, тысячелетняя история нашей страны, проживание в ней людей, более 200 народностей, национальностей, многоконфессиональная страна, живущая в мире и согласии.
Life of our country and history of our country, they all serve as a sample of how the state and the society can be structured, because it is our advantage and our wealth that the people living in this country, they share our traditional values. The value of family, the value of children, the value of parents. This is what has been at the core of the history of our country. This is why we can be a safe haven for people from other countries, where people cannot exchange their values, their civilization, for new value which people may even hate. So in this case, Russia can really fulfill its mission. But it will be not a massive migration of people. There are many people who have the culture of their own countries, of their own peoples. They, of course, will not move anywhere. But we cannot be a fortress, a tower which will keep outside of its walls all the people who are suffering in other countries. We do not want to become this safe haven. Many of our countries, they will never agree with us, and we, of course, we can invite people who there are other states with their own values, their own traditions. Of course, the people who share our values, they are welcome. But now there are people who think absolutely differently. And those who do not share that neoliberal agenda, this is waking up. Some of them say that that they should be celebrate their own pride, whatever that pride may be in, that they brandish orange-colored flags. All these people think that they are progressive, while the others are not. Of course, we could laugh at that, but we should not. It is not funny at any rate. But this propaganda is so sweet, and it gets into the brains of the people, and we have something to counter that. If you give the floor, for instance, to our Minister of Health, Veronika Igorevna, perhaps she will reconvince quite a lot of people. let's take, for instance, Malaysia. It is a powerful and very economically developed country, and they cherish their traditions. They have just now passed the law on prohibition of same-sex marriages. And it is absolutely not contrary to progress. Attention to traditions of your own, of your spiritual values, it does not, it is not an opposition to progress. Vladimir Vladimirovich formulated earlier what conservatism is. So, speaking about Russia as a Noah's Ark, we have to be thinking about that on a more broad basis. Of course, there are same-minded people in their own countries, and there was a German journalist has arrived to Russia. The magazine which was banned here because of the interview they published. And he said, "I'm happy that so many Germans want to come to Russia." And I asked them, we developed now a package of papers which they will have to bring if they want to come to Russia. But if so many Germans want to come to Russia, might be they should do something in their own country. We can, of course, accept these Germans and will try to preserve this German culture, that our students know Goethe better than the students in Germany. But perhaps they should do something in their countries, so that they... we were speaking not about an ark. Ark means inundation, flood, but it is the final stage when people have to build an ark to get saved from deluge. Perhaps I'll now say a few words on the changing world. If 20 years ago I was told that we will discuss these issues, I would not believe, because I would think that this was just crazy. But Belarus is an exception. For instance, they are very careful about their traditions, and they are really say the right thing when they say that we now can make it so that quite a lot of people can come, everybody that wishes so, but we have suffered too much to be now again trying to erect a Berlin Wall between our countries. They keep saying that they will want to wage war on them, but we don't do it. People keep coming to Russia because now here they can learn from the horse's mouth. We understand what is going on in Russia, and so now the Western countries, they are shutting themselves down. They do not let in cars with Russian or Belarusian license plates. More and more countries understand what it means to live freely, quietly on their own land. But they now won't let you discuss really serious things. For instance, Germany, yes, they had so many writers, composers, musicians, but as soon as I begin speaking about the patriotic upbringing for children, if we do not have peace and tranquility in the country, we have now come up to the moment when the Third World War is not so very far. And we want we the women of the world, we have to bring peace to our countries, and we'll have to try to do our utmost for that, to save this generation and other generations. However, but we have also people who are not our friends. And I would like to ask all of us
Spasiba. Thank you so much. It's the longest time I have waited for my chance.
Everybody takes turns except Masha.
Yeah. So before I answer your specific question, I really want to say what I just heard from all the speakers. When you ask any young generation in India, who is the best leader in the world, right? Sijas. Because when I come out of India, of course I have an Indian passport, but when you look at me, first you look at me as a human being, right? I'm a Persian, okay? So the same way, when we are talking about Americans or British or German or French, and we're talking about Russian President Mr. Putin, Indian Prime Minister Mr. Modi. So now the public, the civil society, they don't take a stand about India, about Russia, about America. They more talk about who is the leader. So when they look at Mr. Putin, they understand there's a strong man who is leading the country. So there's no problem. You can trust him. When they look at Mr. Modi, maybe he is not perfect, but most of the young Indians, they think maybe the other people we have, he is the best one to lead India as of now. When you look at America, look at France, look at their leaders, they simply say, ha, 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 ha. Okay, this was just one comment because it's really, we live in a world where the nation states are not as important as it used to be. Our civilization, your personality, who are you? What is your qualification? What do you study? Indian guy, technology, maybe. Chinese guy, businessman, maybe. Russian guy, ballet, whatever you say. I'm not sure, okay? So what I'm saying is that we carry a perception wherever we go. And if we are not up to that, if Americans are not up to the leadership of the world, they should simply say, sorry, we leave it. We can't do it anymore. But they're not, the people who control the American politics, they're not ready to allow them. You see how much time Biden took to say no to the election, right? We were just counting. I think Maria was waiting for this. She already knew this. So they took a lot of time. Now, Kamala Harris, right? It's so funny that she says, sometimes she says, I have Indian background. Sometimes she says, I'm African. It's so confusing. It's the only country
She's
in
a
the
funny
world,
lady.
yeah, it's the only country in the world, very few country like Chinese or Indians or Russian. Wherever they are, they can say, yes, I'm Chinese. Yes, I'm Indian. Yes, I'm Russian. So you have to be proud of your nation, your nationality, your ethnicity. Don't be so opportunistic. So democracy makes the mockery of the system. Now coming back to my country, India, especially, it's a huge, the population of my country is really very high. The number one in the world. So you can see, I can say we have done very good in terms of male-female ratio. We are doing very good now because of Prime Minister Modi, some slogans, right? Try to protect the female child. So getting married in India is not a big issue. Unlike my neighbor country, they have to buy the bridegrooms from neighboring countries. In India, average ratio of male-female is doing very fine. The question is, government is not able to educate them to high level. So the going to university is not very high. So once she is not educated, she cannot be equal to any other guy. So to be very specific, the Indian universities, you'll see students from India in Ukraine, 20,000. In Russia now, 20,000. In China, 20,000. And in the West also many. So as a student male, he can go any country, doesn't matter, how tough it is. But as a female Indian girl, she has some challenges to go abroad. So my only answer to this Indian current women emancipation or women's power is that we need to educate Indian girls to very high level, in PhDs, at very high level, so that they can join the group of, scientific innovations, AI and everything. So I was talking about, when I see in Russia, every woman here is going to university, almost. And all of them, they speak very good English also nowadays. So I see the level of, you are no more a developing country, you are a high income country, okay? There's no doubt. I mean, the impression of Russia, yes.
Not everyone thinks so, even here in Russia, but thank you. Thank you very much.
Я не могу удержаться.
Да.
Я хочу сказать, что, вы знаете...
I would like to say only, if you could say these words in the West, you will be ostracized there. Because you said that it is necessary to protect women's rights, no, not women's, but men's rights. So please don't say these things in the West, only in this country. But I don't understand why sexual relationship should be discussed at a political level. Let this be discussed by a couple in their bedroom.
Now we really have 3 minutes per each speaker because our hostess Valentina has a very tight schedule. Not only we have been waiting for her, but lots of people are happy to see her during the forum. Well, Masha, have you helped a lot of people willing to come to this country? I know that you've been helping people with documents, with travel, etc. Well, I work for a department that helps all those who are interested in these matters, and I am proud that I work with with people who have been helping such people. And today, I wouldn't say it is a challenge, because a challenge is a rather derogatory word, but it's our priority today to help people who have been prosecuted in their countries only because they insisted they should call girls girls and should call boys boys. And also those who want to come here because some kind of sociology expert of an incomprehensible profession said that they would have to change the gender of their child, and that's why lots of our diplomatic organizations, Россотрудничество, Russian collaboration, and many other public organizations have been helping such people based on our new legislation or just without waiting for it. Some people are willing to come to this country even though they are warned that it will take some time for them to get a visa. Some of them get our information support and also legal support. Our Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia has been cooperating with a lot of lawyers on this just to fight against this crazy ideology. Well, now you, Madam Skvortsova, Mrs. Valentina said that you have now visited the whole world. Actually, everything that has been said by Valentina Matviyenko is correct, that definitely there is a separate science that aims at manipulating human conscience and mental health. But it's only possible if the person wants to be part of it. And how is it possible to make people do it? And there are different ways for this purpose, and there are scientific platforms that help work out motivation for different groups of population. It's most important because we want to address our demographic problems, and we should help those who are willing to move here, but for this purpose we'll need special ways of work. Thank you. I think I will stop at it. I think you could certainly convince a lot of people, if not all, then many of them. Now, what they say in London, what is the last but not least way to convince people that they are now facing an abyss and they're in a blind alley now. I personally can see that there has been strengthening of the liberal agenda just to be more aggressive from the West. And also they're trying to fight against the world's majority. But what about the majority of population in their countries? I believe that a majority now has started fighting these ideas. For instance, in the UK, the Muslim community has been opposed to such agenda, and something similar happens in other European countries, and the same will be happening in the United States. That is to say, the liberal agenda will still be promoted there very strongly, but also there will be opposition to such agenda, and we can see it now using the example of Europe. And I can see that there will be an increase in a positive agenda in the countries of the global majority, and one of the leading subject matters will be sports, because lots of countries want to discuss the future of sports. Nobody there wants to follow the liberal agenda of the International Olympic Committee, and what we can see worldwide now is just a reflection of this trend. There will also exist sound nationalism in the good meaning of this word, and it will be something to dominate in the countries of the global majority. And I believe that it will help many countries to not say to take a more active stand in opposing the liberal agenda, which is based on the transgender speculations. These discussions have been developing to counteract, have been developing over the past 2 or 3 years, but we should be very active in using the formats such as Shanghai Organization, BRICS, etc., where countries feel free to speak out their viewpoints. That's why it will be most important. And even though there will be a big conflict between civilizations, a big confrontation between civilization, we should take part in it just to actively support us. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank all the members of the audience. I'd like to thank our great hostess, Valentina Matviyenko. And to sum up the results of our today's meeting, I'd like her to give her ideas. I have a very positive view on the changing world, even though there are lots of things, but I'm still optimistic. What is occurring now in European countries is not supported by an absolute majority of their population. It is only conducted by politicians who have lost their reputation. But if you look at Japan, for instance, where there is so much Russophobia, which never existed before, they used to demand from us that we give their islands to them, but we were just maintaining a good dialogue. But then, based on technologies mentioned by Madam Skvortsova, they actually got rid of the prime minister. His rating fell down to 24%, and now they're going to identify a new leader for their party, and they will elect a new prime minister. In the Netherlands, the population did not vote for the new prime minister. Let's now look at Mr. Macron. The whole of France now is roaring with indignation with his work. He lost in the election, but so-called European democracies have been teaching us how to have an election system where even if a candidate loses in the first round, they have a chance to get to the second round, and then it's possible for them to correct people's conduct. Now there have been demands to impeach Macron. Probably he'll be able to stay safe up to the end of his term, but anyway, he has discredited himself. Now look at Chancellor Scholz. In the east of Germany, the leading coalition only got 0.75% points, and the alternative for Germany got an overwhelming majority. That is to say, there is now a rebuilding of policies worldwide, and I think these processes will continue, and not only because prices have been growing and factories have been closed, but the liberal agenda will change, and people who wanted to move to Russia will have their say more actively. That's why we need to act. Our country is so strong and powerful. We have such a rich history, but we are short of active work to promote all the good things and counteract the bad things. So our Women's Forum aims at uniting women, and in fact, the fourth Eurasian Forum, Margarita, I'm telling you that we had never expected that it would be such a success. Now, 127 countries have taken part in it. I mean, using remote access on video conferences, lots of ministers, vice ministers, and so on. Those are really beautiful women that have made a good career, and it's been a great pleasure to talk to them. We certainly love talking here. We want to apply scaling of our programs to achieve success based on the results of this forum and of the forum of BRICS women. We are getting ready for, we are preparing a serious document for the summit of BRICS countries that will be chaired by Russia, and we will insist that what we have discussed here is reflected in the documents of the summit. We are also preparing a final resolution that will distribute to the United Nations, to all the leaders of states worldwide. And also, we have instituted the title of ambassador of Eurasian Women's Forum for our new ambassadors to deliver our letters to the leaders of the world. So I won't tell you once again about the agenda of our forum. Everything has worked. We have we have put forward specific tasks and have been making success at it. Well, let us all together thank Margarita Simoniat now. Thank you very much, Madam Matvienko. And I really respect Margarita so much. I admire her intelligence. I admire her way of speaking. And most importantly, she has such a great core of a state person, of a state figure, that she has never been disloyal to her ideas. She has never tried to abuse from political situation. Thank you very much. I'm going to cry out, to burst out crying. Let us give an applause to our hostess, Valentina Matvienko, a person who is incarnation, who has been incarnation over many years of of everything that is written in great Russian literature about Russian women, who are able to stop wild horses, to enter houses set on fire, and lead this country for so many years. Thank you very much for the model that